We're continuing to react to the college football playoff bracket. Our friends at Sportsline have run their simulations. This is their optimal outcome. We've got chalk, totally, in the first round, all the favorites winning. But look at the national champion. They've got Penn State playing against Texas, and Texas wins the whole thing. So a 5 and a 6 seed, that's what we love to see. A little bit of upset there, but we're going to toss things over to Josh Pate, who walks us through his optimal bracket.
Yeah, I got to wonder if Sportsline knows something about Carson Beck there.
Right.
Be very interested in that. Look, the one thing I hate in life is being nailed down. I don't ever want to give definitive statements because that means I have to back them up. But let's go.
Sharpie.
Why not? Everyone,
you've had all of 40 minutes. Come on.
Everyone at home, get your pencils out, not your pens. I want you to write this down lightly. Clemson plays Texas the first day of winter there in Austin. 4 o'clock kickoff. That's 3 o'clock local time. I still think somewhere in my heart of hearts there is a version of Texas that we're going to get. Maybe Sark's just got a Kirby problem, and that's why we didn't say it yesterday. Maybe they just match up against Georgia bad. Maybe they'll never have to see Georgia in the playoff. They will see Clemson. Still think it's a flawed Clemson team. Good for them. I still think it's a flawed Clemson team. I will take Texas to win that game and advance to play Arizona State. And you want to talk about playing two teams right out of the gate that have nothing to lose. I'm just saying. All right, Tennessee against Ohio State in Columbus. That is an 8 p.m. kickoff. That is, I think, the last of the first round games in terms of chronological order. This is the game that's been locked in for a while. We've all known that this game was going to happen one way or the other for a while. I feel the same way about Ohio State I do about Texas, Danny. I still think there's a version of them. And I also think in terms of just pure back against the wall mentality, you've got all the pressure that's built up, but it's not Michigan. As long as it's not Michigan across the field, I can count on Ohio State. I think they played maybe their best game of the year against Indiana, high leverage spot. And then the other best game of the year was against Oregon. They lost the game, but they played. If I get that level of play from Ohio State in this game, they will win and they will advance. SMU going to Penn State. Talked about it a million times. Let's make it 1,000,001. Penn State, out of all of the teams, relatively speaking, in this tournament, is the most privileged, advantaged position that there is, but you still got to go win the game. That doesn't mean I disrespect Rhett Lashlee and SMU, but if I'm looking at all the possibilities in round one, that right there is who I want. They can put it in any hype video in Dallas they want. I love those guys. They probably will.
They're flipping it right now.
This is your spot to make it happen. If you're James Franklin and Penn State, you got Ohio State up there. You didn't get it done. Competitive game. You go to the Big Ten and you play Oregon. You don't get it done. Competitive game. Both of the calibers of those teams are greater than the one you'll play at home here. So I think Penn State wins that game and advances. And then the old in-state rival, we're going to talk about it like it's a high school 4A football state championship. Indiana, plucky. You'll use all the adjectives about Indiana. I just look at manpower. I look at size. I look at strength. I look at physicality. I almost like that Notre Dame doesn't need fireworks to win. I almost like that they are more of a bulldozer because I think that stuff translates to this time of year. So I'll take Notre Dame over Indiana. Then we start looking at that next round. This is where I start to weigh my relationships. I have to start making some tough decisions. Really, my relationship with
Relationships
sanity.
with who? That's what I was going to say.
Myself.
Sanity.
The man in the mirror, yeah. Okay,
So what's he telling you?
Texas, the same thing that I just said to advance them in round one. I'm advancing them in round two. Having said that, I am thinking about Arizona State with time to prepare. I'm thinking about Cam Scatterbo. I'm thinking about just the total DGAFity, the DGAF-ness of that program, if you will.
I haven't heard
this
that
is
word.
the internet, so we can roll that way.
Go ahead.
I'm going to take Texas. I'm terrified. I want you to hear me in Tempe. Absolutely terrified of that pick. Ohio State against Oregon in the Rose Bowl is just, it's a postcard.
Yeah.
It's everything that's right about college football, even in the most flawed of formats. It's everything that's right. I think that if Ohio State can start off fast and win that first game against Tennessee, which I project them to do, I think we are going to see some team out there that is actually a little flat because they had the time off. I'm just going to randomly guess this is that spot. And also, it's a revenge spot for Ohio State on a neutral field. Penn State, Boise. Penn State, we think, will be favored by between 11 and 14 points. I think that's right. And the thing about Boise, everyone gets scared of like the shock the world upset potential because that program's famous for it. it's Ashton Genty. Like, that's it. And if you can stop it, fine. And if you can't, that's tough luck. I think Penn State can do a good enough job limiting them. I think they win that game. And then I look at Notre Dame, Georgia, and million-dollar question, multi-million-dollar question. I think if you asked our friends at FanDuel over there about the handle they'll have on this game, what do we know about Carson Beck? If we don't have them, or if we don't have him, it's not the end of the world for Georgia. Gunnar Stockton and company came from behind, riding a dominant defensive performance to win last night against Texas. But I think if Notre Dame's already got a win under their belt and they start rolling, it's a great spot for Notre Dame. So I'm going Carson Beck-less. Let me specify. I'm thinking Georgia's got quarterback issues.
Your pick would change.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. So I am going to, with a caveat, pick Notre Dame to advance. Texas versus Ohio State in the semifinal. In fact, these are two big money games in the semifinals. Oh, buddy. So I think about what cost Texas twice against Georgia. And I think personnel-wise, out of this entire bracket, the next program that is capable of doing that from a personnel standpoint is Ohio State. I think they could put something similar in front of Texas. I think Ohio State edges them in that game. And I think that if you look down at the bottom, if Penn State has won already against Boise, and then they get into this game against Notre Dame, I think they beat Notre Dame. Wow. And I think we're looking at an all Big Ten national championship game. It's a replay of what we saw in State College earlier this year. It is in Atlanta. And how about Greg Sankey and the SEC watching two Big Ten teams do battle in their mecca? Atlanta is the mecca of the SEC. I mean, you're talking about putting a wooden spoon in your mouth and biting as hard as you can for SEC folks having to see that. I got Ohio State winning the whole thing.
Ohio State is Josh Pate's pick to win.
And I'll tell you, but it's because they look so good against Michigan. I love what they showed against Michigan.
Okay, that's what it is. Danny, where's your biggest qualm here? Do you have any? Is it perfect?
Oh yeah, no, I have a bunch of different picks in it. Like I could see it. You know, that's the thing. I could see all of it unfolding.
Yeah, don't call any pick stupid in this whole thing.
Exactly. Ohio State, there is such a thing as, and now this is not the way we talk about good losses, but there are motivating losses. Ones that kind of wake you up, that get you behind together. I think Ohio State could have us against the world, which is completely opposite of what we came into this season. Remember, they had the super team, everybody's favorite, everybody loves them. They have all the superstar talent, and they've fallen well short of expectations. Now, they can use all this negativity as motivation for them. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. That talent is still there.
You remember 2 years ago, they lost to Michigan at home.
Yep.
And then they had to regroup because they made the playoffs.
Yep.
And they go to Atlanta to play Georgia. And I thought they played game of the year. They end up missing a field goal to win the thing. But we saw Ryan Day get probably the best performance of the year out of his team after they had already lost to Michigan. So they could have gone in a hole, but instead they didn't. So we've got precedent here. And if he does that again, if that program does that again, they could be shot out of a cannon and win this whole thing.
The problem I would have it, so you had the two Big Ten teams in the national championship, but you don't have the best one in. That would be my problem with it. Because I would have Oregon. That's who my national champion pick
But Oregon's got to beat
be.
Ohio State to get there. That's what we
but I think we already saw it happen once, you know, and we've seen them. I think Oregon is the most complete team in college football as far as a roster standpoint. Like, everybody's had quarterback play. It's been a little bit up and down. Or can we get a little bit more out of Drew Aller? Or Quinn Ewers, is he healthy? And do we need to bring in Arch Manning? Like, all of these teams, you go and there's a little bit of flaws. There may be a flaw in the defense. Oregon does not have a weakness. And they have a coach who I think is going to finish the season and be it's going to be a coronation for Dan Lanning as a top 3, top 5 coach in all of college football, because he's been on that trajectory ever since his name has started becoming rumblings, and he's been a coordinator in the SEC, and he goes out as this young, hot coach at Oregon. He has lived up to those expectations. He's a great motivator. He's great with X's and O's. He's done genius things with the rule book that we never even thought possible when he put 12 men on the field to get that extra seconds off the clock against Ohio State. I think it's a party for Oregon at the end of the year.
When I hear you say that Ohio State can go into this playoff with the us against the world mentality, man, that has rumblings of Michigan versus everybody else and what they did last year. It worked for them, but man, Ohio State's do not like the fact that I just compared them to Michigan's national championship run last year.
You know what's wild is we've been laying all this out, and I've been participating. Not hardly a mention of Tennessee.
No.
Hardly no mention of Tennessee.
And I kind of wanted to pull the trigger and to call the upset in round 1.
But you didn't.
But that's more so just for my sanity. Hey, if you want more from Josh Pate, check out Josh Pate's College Football Show Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday at 8 p.m.